Let's move on to a new project. This one's called Simba. It's a short film. It's about a woman and her horse. She goes back to visit. The horse is sick and she has to put it to sleep. Now, the direction I got for this film was fairly vague. There was no creative brief. There was no sample music. Well, there was one piece, but the director hated it. So I have a lot of artistic freedom to do whatever I want to, which is a blessing and a curse. In some ways, it's difficult if you have a lot of options. But so how things will develop is going to really be unique. Okay, so let's play the cut that I received for Simba. This is going to be with no music, and we'll give you a chance to see what it looks like.
I understand.
Okay, let's talk about some of the decisions we'll need to make with Simba. I'm going to use the same format that we talked about with Jumper in terms of the decisions that need to be made. The first one is what sort of hit points are we going to look at? If you remember, there's a moment where she starts to run towards her horse. That starting point is going to be a little nebulous, and we'll talk about that later. But the ending is a little bit more obvious. Obviously, when the gun goes off, that's a clear decision point or stop point, or something needs to happen there. Okay, tempo. Tempo here, the movement, and let's take a look at this for a second again. Notice how the shots are really slow, and there's not a lot of quick cuts that are happening in this. So I could maybe draw from that by doing a slower tempo. My gut says that this tempo needs to be a little bit on the upper, kind of not upbeat, but a faster side, considering the intensity of this particular scene. To have a sense of movement and to move the story along while there's not any talking going on this particular section. Okay, so for response, obviously there's a lot of anticipation here because we're anticipating this, something's going to be going on with this horse. There was a gun, was running out on the field, and so something's going to happen. But there's some reaction too, because there's this moment when the gun goes off that she falls to her knees. That's something we want to respond to as well. All right, mood and feel. There's definitely an opportunity here, I think, to provide some contrast instead of exactly matching. And what I talked about before with regard to the cuts being very slow, there's a lot of tender moments. And I think that the music could be a nice foil to that by being a little bit more intense, while at the same time the video footage is a bit more relaxed. And that could have a nice relationship together. Finally, how does this relate to the whole? Well, for one, it's wrapping up the entire piece, so it needs to feel like a good bookend or a finish, some sort of finale moment for that. I also want to play you a couple examples from earlier scenes there's a couple scenes from this film where she is directly interacting with the horse. And in those particular scenes, the piano was very dominant and supported by a little bit of strings. And so let me play those for you. Okay, so hopefully you're able to see that those were some tender moments between her and the horse, and they, again, focused on the piano with a little bit of string. So I think that something for this final portion like that would be very appropriate to tie together. Something with piano being the main part with a little bit of backing for that. So let's get into this and start mapping out where it needs to be and start composing.